Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August 28, 2002 meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Report of posting of agenda, please, Mr. Evans.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the agenda was posted here Friday in accordance with state and local procedures, and if the chairman would like, I'd like to make an announcement to the public.
Please.
We are having some technical difficulty with some of our sound system. The sound system is working fine on the television program, but there are some microphones that may or may not work during the meeting in this room. So if for some reason you cannot hear the dialogue, we apologize. Please raise your hand, and we'll try to remind whomever is speaking to speak up so that the people in the room can hear all the dialogue. And we'll try to do our best. And just a reminder to the commissioners that the mics are going to be intermittent, so don't try to adjust them. It's a problem that's systemic that we're trying to work through. So just proceed with your meeting, and if your mic's on, fine. If it's not on, don't tap on it. That only compounds the problem.
We're good, thank you. Reporting and posting of agenda, please, Mr. Evans. We already did?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Last Friday we did it.
See, you've thrown me off here. The first item before us then is public comments. Anybody wishing to address the commission on planning issues in the city of Palm Springs, you may come forward at this time. It would be our request that if you're here on an agenda item that you withhold your comment until that agenda item comes forward. If you prefer, however, you can speak at this time. Is there anybody that wishes to address us? Please come forward to the microphone, give us your name, and before you leave, please sign the clipboard.
Hi, I'm Mary Elizabeth Ross. I live at Ramon Mobile Home Park, and I would like to discuss the RV situation.
Okay, Ms. Ross, go ahead. We'll try to make sure that we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Well, as you can plainly see, I'm a senior citizen, and I'm glad that we're having this public discussion about the RVs. Last year, I was on the phone with Mr. Douglas Evans, and he is familiar with the situation, but since our new owner asked for this what did he want? Conditional use permit, then we have to acknowledge that and get both sides of this equation. Now, since the park is full of seniors and we have no security at night, I have a Chow Chow. She's better than an ADT. So sometimes she barks at night. I get up and look, and there's one night at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 3 men walking down there. When we have the RVs in, we have more transients. Their attitude is that they're on a holiday and they don't consider the fact that those of us that have money invested in our trailers and coaches and pay taxes and contribute to the economy of this area by having repairs done and improvements, they think that's a big joke. So they use abusive language, they slam car doors, they talk on outside later at night, and it's when I stop and think that every year, 6 months out of the year, I'm going to have RV people behind me, it doesn't make me very happy. Now last year, I had one right behind me. They connected the sewer hose, and it wasn't anchored. The wind come along and blew it out, and then they finally put a cement block on it. They blocked up my back gate with cement blocks, and they said they didn't know how it got there. I don't know that the park management does a security check when they come in. And then when they reasoned for this, the RVs being in there, is to build this fence. Then I want to know if the money, if you do pass this, if you do accept the RVs in, then the money that's obtained from the RV space rental, will it be commingled with the general funds, or will it go into a separate fund to pay for the fence? There's a lot of questions in my mind, and I won't take any more of your time. It's just, we had yard sales, and they didn't pay attention, and the management didn't observe, and the residents have to go to the office and say, look, it's just a very unpleasant situation. And I just want you to know, see, and on in the rental agreement that I signed when I moved there, it says definitely that there's to be a mobile home on that space. So that's just my attitude and my worries about the RVs in there. And I don't think there's 35 spaces. I don't think that there's that many. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody else that would like to address this on public comments? Yeah. I should remind you again, this is an agended item, a public hearing item, and if you're speaking on that issue, we'd prefer that you withhold your comment. You can speak at this time if you prefer.
I would like to. Good afternoon. My name is Mrs. Philip Klitzner, and I'm a resident of Ramon Mobile Home Park. In actuality, I'm not objecting to the 35 so-called seasonal RVs. However, I have a problem because 3 or 4 years ago, I attended a meeting here. I think Chris Mills was part of the Planning Commission. And the former owners were told that they were supposed to have, if they're going to have RVs, they were going to be in designated areas. Now, again, I reiterate, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm wondering what happened with that former directive with the former owners, and he was supposed to come in with a plan. As I recall, they wanted him to have it designated, regular pads for hookup for water and electric, and as far as a fence, it was only supposed to be on Ramon Road. I'm just curious because I know that that meeting took place, and I know you have a videotape of it because my husband was one of those that videotaped it for the city of Palm Springs, so I'm sure you have it in your archives. So I'm just curious as to how there was a directive for the owner, the former owner who sold it to Mr. Guy, to come in with a plan, and to my knowledge, there never was any plan he ever brought in about the RVs. So I'd like to know how it came to this. That's what I have to say. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your comments. Those questions may be answered as part of the hearing. I suggest you stay around. Anybody else like to address us? Please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments. Our public hearing items are noticed for 2 o'clock, and it's not that time yet, so we're going to jump down on the agenda to our architectural approval items, specifically number 5, which is case 5.0909, the application by Brad Corzin for street and landscape improvements at the Estrella Inn, 415 South Bellardo Road. Mr. Evans, or?
Mr. Chairman, we recommend you continue that one to your next meeting, and actually, we should have placed that on the hearing section of your agenda. You did continue the public hearing on that item for additional input. The applicant has not submitted revised plans, so we're not ready to make a recommendation today.
Do we need to call it at 2 o'clock and open the public hearing, or just make a motion for continuance?
We'll make a motion, the applicant and the neighborhood is aware that we will not discuss this today.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion then to continue the matter to the September 11th meeting, subject to those parameters.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Schoenberger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is number 6, case 3.02230, application by Stephen Thuringer for an architectural approval for single-family residence located at 254 Overlook Drive, which was continued from the meeting of August 14th. Jane, is this yours, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioners. The application before you is an application by Stephen Thuringer for a single-family residence at 254 Overlook Road. The property is located west of Mesa Drive. The lot itself is about a 15,000 square foot lot. The proposed residence will be about 4,371 square feet. As you can see from this particular roof plan, is the main residence, a garage, and then a detached guest house attached by a breezeway. During staff's review, this residence does comply with all zoning codes and regulations. The pad elevation of the house is about 466 feet. Neighboring pad elevations, you did see a case at the previous commission meeting for the house behind it. The house behind this house has a pad elevation of about 474, so it's about 8 feet lower than the property to the north. In terms of building height, you can see from the west elevation here, staff chose to take building height from essentially finished grade because of the way that the lot actually slopes up instead of, from top of curb or average curb. And in that case, at this particular level, the house is about 11.5 feet. At the second level, it's 15.5 feet. And at the top part, it's about 14.5 feet from finished grade. An AMM was approved for a 5-foot reduction in the front setback. The engineering department had required an additional 5-foot dedication on Overlook Road, so they were credited for that in terms of their front setback. I know that the applicant is here as well as along the architect and is available for your questions, and so is staff. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff? Gene, perhaps you can comment on the 3 suggested additional conditions that are part of our motions agenda.
This item did go to design review on July the 22nd. Design review reacted very favorably to the project and really just had 3 pretty minor suggestions regarding the circular driveway at the southwest portion of the property. They wanted to see just a reduction of the hardscape there, so they asked for that particular driveway area to be narrowed. The second suggestion was to pull the existing adobe block wall on the south property line to sort of extend it from the east to the west property line. And the third recommendation was to expand the plant palette to include hillside desert landscaping.
And was the applicant receptive to those suggestions?
Yes, he was.
Is the applicant here, and if so, would you like to address us?
My name is Wendell Veith. I'm the architect along with Sosa Lance Design for this project. And we concur with the recommendations of staff. We have submitted a revised site plan, which is not up on the board at this point, that shows the location of the existing wall being extended and some gates putting in on the driveway, and also the narrowing of the driveway. So we concur with that part of it, and we would ask that you would approve it as the design is set there.
Thank you, sir. Back to commission.
Mr. Veith, the three conditions they added, I think you just said those were acceptable.
Yes.
Okay.
Conrad?
I have a question for staff or for Mr. Veith. Is the tile two-piece tile?
Yes, it's 2 pieces of
Terrific. And how tall are these tower elements?
Those are the chimneys, and we're basicque the spark arrestor will be 2 feet above the parapet walls, and then we have a brick applique on top of that. So probably the top of those would be maybe 4 to 5 feet above the top of the parapet, but within the code limits of how we do the fireplace.
Thank you.
Schellenberger?
Make a motion to approve the application subject to the 3 conditions that design review recommended: that the circular driveway be narrowed, that the block wall be extended, and the plant palette be expanded to include desert landscaping.
Is there a second?
That was plus the conditions in the staff report.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, item number 7, case 5.0860, PD 226, application by Heavenstone Collections for approval of final plan development district located at the northeast corner of North Indian Canyon Drive and Alejo Road. Staff report, please.
This item is before you for a final plan development district. The Design Review Committee reviewed it on Monday of this week. Design Review Committee recommended approval with some modifications to the windows and roof elements. I'd like to kind of walk you through those plan by plan. Plan number 1, the original approval had a different window program here. Design Review requested that these windows match and that these windows match, creating a form of symmetry. The Design Review Committee also recommended that the spacing and the distance match. The applicant is aware of the recommendation in terms of this unit. The applicant is able to create the symmetry with the windows in terms of the window type, but not in terms of the spacing, simply because of what's happening on the inside of these windows. This is a bathroom. So the windows, this window can be replicated here. These match in terms of the window type, but the spacing, the applicant would prefer not to change the spacing simply because of the function inside of the units. On plan number 2, the requested revisions are a little more extensive. The design review has requested that the wall be pulled out a little further here, as in the original approval, and have a recessed balcony. So the wall would pull out, and the roof line would also be extended, and would result in the elimination of the tile accent, another of the Design Review Committee's objectives. The applicant will discuss that in greater detail in terms of the difficulty to achieve that objective. On to elevation number 3 and 4. Plan 3 was identical to the earlier approval and was approved by Design Review. Plan 4 had some changes to the window on the back, windows and fenestration on the back or the south frontage. This side will have a 6-foot wall along Alejo. However, the Design Review Committee was comfortable with these window changes, creating a slider here, but was not comfortable with these and requested that the applicant go back to the earlier split window pattern. I know the applicant is here and would like to discuss this. In terms of final grading plan, the grading design is a relatively flat site, very conservative in terms of sloping. We have slopes ranging from 0.5, which is about as flat as you can design it to move water, to about 0.1 in the driveway areas. In terms of the relative pad heights, existing single-family residence to the east is 477.4. The immediate unit directly to the west is 0.09 feet higher, and has a relationship to the street here of a finished floor elevation of 478 and street height of 477 here. Engineering typically likes 1.5 feet above the street, but because this is an existing context with buildings essentially all the way around it, with the exception of the south side, we've tried to keep the pad heights as low as possible. It's not too objectionable to have this relationship because there's less than a foot distance difference in the heights. The pads go from 478.3, 478.79.1, again 0.8 of a foot, 479.35, it's a 1/4 of a foot difference here, 479.60, a little more than a 1/4 of a foot difference here, 479.70, and again decreasing in elevation, 479.3. So this is about the height of this unit. All in all, it's pretty flat. We're recommending approval of the final grading plan. However, we do not have the wall information. We're going to bring the wall plan back to you and final landscape plans back to you when those items are ready. Wanted to call your attention to a perspective drawing that helps to demonstrate the applicant's desires in terms of their final construction documents. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant's also present.
Any questions to staff before we invite the applicant to speak? Would the applicant or anyone else in the audience wishing to address us on this matter like to come forward at this time, please?
I'm Alan Sanborn, architect for the project. Would you like me to go up there and address each item individually?
If you can do it from the podium, that'd be great. If you feel that it's necessary to go up, we could use the remote mic.
Yeah, probably would be better.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that, Alan?
Okay. I believe with regards to Plan 4, Design Review had a preference to change the dining room window from a single window back to a double window. The double window was extremely large, and the original room was a little bit larger. The single window fits in the dining room better. It's operable, and it allows furnishing on either side of the window. This is in the backyard behind a 6-foot wall, and we feel it's not that big a deal. We'd prefer the single window in the dining room, and it also frees up the clutter along the back of the elevation where we have a number of windows going on in that elevation. Okay, Alex, was the plan?
Even though the mic is working for television, the people in the audience, I'm sure, are having some difficulty, so if you try to speak up, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. On the side elevation of Plan 1, The request was to make the toilet room window larger and to realign it so that there's equal symmetrical spacing. I feel that the vernacular of this architecture doesn't require symmetrical spacing, especially in this elevation, which is 10 feet away from another building in an alley. We've detailed the corner window nicely. We will agree to make the window larger so that at least it's the same height, but I prefer to leave the window where it is. If you move the window, then it ends up in front of the toilet instead of off to the side. And also, that was another reason why it was a little bit higher than the other windows, but must have been a slow day in design review that day. I don't know. Let's see. I think that was it on Plan 1. Plan 2. What we had in Plan 2 originally was just a plant-on balcony. It wasn't really a real balcony. We decided in laying out the furniture that we rotated the inside of the room and wanted to put a real balcony on. That was item number 1. Item 2, the garage had to get larger to accommodate an FAU we hadn't planned on putting in the garage. So what we did is we brought in the same detail that you find on the rear of the building with the balcony and the shed overhang. So it's not foreign to this particular unit. And it also provides us structural framing for the balcony. The design review requested we build 2.5 feet of fake wall just so that we could enclose the balcony. I don't believe that's warranted. We'd prefer to use the same detailing that we've got on the rear of this particular unit. They wanted me to take out the window in the garage. I prefer to leave the window in the garage. If I have one in my garage and I really like it. But we did decide that to take the same detailing that we have here in this location and I believe here and add that to that window, dress it up a bit. This window is on the front entry walk as you walk in, so it will not make that wall quite as plain. So we feel that should stay in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that's the 5 items that they had in mind. If you want to take a look at how this balcony element looks, it's pretty prominent in the rendering. So you can see in a perspective how that's going to turn out. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else who wishes to comment on this matter? Back to commission for comments or questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify one item. The final development plans before you are not a complete set of final development plans. It has to do with the buildings and the grading plan. We still have a landscape plan to bring back and some wall details and things of that nature. So those will come back. What we're trying to do is expedite the grading plan and the ability to start foundations and the like. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Can we assume, although it wasn't stated in the report, that engineering is comfortable with the grading plan as it is, even with the relatively minimum slope?
It's been approved by the city engineer.
Yeah, thank you.
Was anybody at the commission at design review?
I was not, no.
Were you there, Doug, or you out of town? Let me shed some light on, I find Mr. Sanborn's arguments compelling. And what am I missing?
The design review was looking at the building in terms of primarily the external orientation of the windows, fenestration. We did flip back through the floor plan so that they could see what was happening on the other sides. Projects change shape from when you look at them just conceptually to when you're designing construction documents for the program of construction. So these are changes that the design team has felt are an improvement to the project, and the design review committee was less comfortable with some of them and more comfortable with others.
Ms. Conlon?
Were they after shade? Is that the reason why they wanted to build the wall out? Is that what the primary concern was? Is that what design?
In terms of the shed over the garage,
No, for the balcony. Were they trying to provide a much more shaded balcony?
essentially they didn't like how the facade was broken on unit number 2 by the shed roof of tile. They didn't. I think the design review committee appreciated kind of the massing of the structure as a single plane, whereas the applicant would like to have a split plane.
Can I just, and is this 2-piece barrel tile that's mudded? Great. I also find Mr. Sanborn's arguments pretty compelling. I think in Spanish, it doesn't have to be so symmetrical, and it'll still fly, and most of it we're not going to see. I prefer the double windows on the back, but I don't think we're going to see it because it's on Alejo and behind the wall.
Would you like to make a motion?
So I'll move the application, I guess as,
Submit it.
I think that the bathroom window should match, even if it doesn't have to move to be symmetrical. And I think that the garage window, as embellished, could stay. And was there anything else? That's my motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Conrad, second by Mr. Matthews. Any further comment? Yeah, I'm going to agree with this. I think that the design is well thought out, and there may be just differences in taste and perception, but I'm comfortable with it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're past 2 o'clock, time for a public hearing, so we'll go back in our agenda. First public hearing item, which is number 2, case 5.0421, PD 185, application by Desert Healthcare Foundation for an amendment to the Plan Development District 185, the Desert Regional Medical Center Master Plan, and architectural approval for a short-term accommodation facility for families, referred to as the Hanson House at the Desert Regional Medical Center located at 377 Mel Avenue. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The item before you, as you're aware, is both an amendment to the existing Plan Development District and architectural approval of the Hanson House, an 800 square foot facility for overnight accommodations for relatives and family members of hospital patients at the Desert Regional Medical Center. Surrounding uses include the site, which is currently an unimproved parking lot, and the rest of the Desert Regional Medical Center. To the north, we have unimproved land and areas and multifamily dwellings. To the east, we have a single-family residential neighborhood. To the south and both to the west, we have additional professional offices in the area. As you're aware, the original PD was approved in 1987 and has been amended a number of times since then. The site itself is relatively flat and slopes gently from northwest to southeast.
No court today.
The proposed project itself consists of 4 buildings, a main house, guest rooms, a meditation hall, and a storage facility. The Hanson House is entered through a main entry drive off the extension of Paseo El Mirador, which is a private street. What I'd like to do now is approach the boards, let you take a look at the materials, and walk you through the project. This is the Desert Regional Medical Center Campus Master Plan. Indian, Tachiva, Via Mural Est, Mel Avenue, and this is the extension of Paseo El Mirador, which is a private street. You can see multifamily, single-family office, and office. In terms of the hospital site itself, the proposed location of the Hanson House is right here. Recently, you looked at a land use permit for a parking lot in this location, a lot here, and there is the existing tower here. In terms of the site itself, Paseo El Mirador, we have some apartment complex here, some covered parking. The site takes entry here, although there is a private driveway here, and 2 RV spaces right here for the family members to bring their units so that they can stay on site and have those units available for larger extended families. In terms of the buildings, there is a main building, lobby, administration, living room area, dining room, kitchen complex, pantry, janitor's uses right here. There's a meditation building here with a conference room and another janitor's building, closet. A storage building here adjacent to the parking lot. You'd come through entering the main trellis area right here through the main building, through the colonnade here. There's a passageway here, and the guest rooms and caretakers' living areas in the back here. Again, there's 7 bedrooms, essentially one room efficiencies with restrooms, and then there's a caretaker's unit here, an 8th. In terms of the hardscape and courtyard areas, the entry area has a nice entry courtyard here with the fountain, the trellis covering towards the main entry. There's also a small courtyard here, and courtyard here and a larger rear yard. There is a block wall surrounding project and wraps this ways. There's also a pedestrian connection between Mell Avenue and the main hospital area. In terms of the architecture, they're using 2-coat plaster with smooth finish, 2-piece mission tile with a Madeira blend, heavy timbers, Milgard wood-clad windows, and a number of other materials in the same kind of vein. What I'd like to do is answer any questions you may have at this time and invite the architectural team up to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff? Mr. Matthews?
No, I don't. I'm turning off my mic.
Mr. Grinch?
I'm going to have to abstain.
I have a question, Alex. On the drawing to the right, there appears to be 2 other buildings that have been labeled not included.
Thank you for
Are they
pointing
been
these out.
permanently deleted, or is it just going in phases?
My understanding is that this master plan with this building is an earlier rendition, but I would ask the applicant to clarify that. You're correct in your question that these are not included in this current phase. It was never mentioned in terms of an additional or future phase. I think it's just an earlier rendition of the building.
Mr. Chairman, I believe in the future there is an opportunity in an area for expansion, and if that were to occur, they'd have to come back for final development plan for the Light Commission. And if that's incorrect, the applicant will clarify that.
Very good. Okay, this is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to address the commission may come forward at this time. Please give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave. Go right ahead.
My name is Ana Escalante, and I'm one of the architects in the project. To answer the question about Phase 2, at this point, it's not going to happen due to several project reasons. So we're only pursuing hands-on house. At the present time, just has what you see on the boards, not including the other small buildings that are represented on that master plan. So, for the record, we're just seeking permission for Phase 1, and Phase 2 probably is not going to happen. And if you have any questions, by all means, feel free.
You may have some at the close of the public hearing. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Matthews.
I'd move approval of case 5.0421 PD 185, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Ms. Conrad.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Schoenberger.
Just as a note, we spent a long time on this project at a study session, so I think that we're all familiar with it, and it's an important project, and I just wanted to mention that so that, for the record, we have spent quite a bit of time reviewing the project.
Thank you. Anything further? Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Next public hearing is number 3, case 5.0917, application by Ramon Mobile Home Park for conditional use permit to place 35 recreational vehicles seasonally on an empty mobile home park spaces on the property located at 1441 East Ramon Road. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just informed a moment ago that my microphone, even though it was working in the room, is not working on television. So that's why I'm here. A little bit of background on this.
Design it that way if you wanted.
The city did approve a few years ago a conditional use permit to allow the use of RVs in vacant spaces. That conditional use permit had a series of conditions. The owner of the park at that time never complied with those conditions, and we've been on and off trying to bring the project into compliance, either with those conditions or abate the rental of spaces for RV use. There was some concern by one of the previous speakers during public comments as to why that never occurred. And it was basically a situation where the owner failed to comply, and we started the abatement process, and then the park changed ownership. So we notified the new park owner. The new park owner has reapplied for the conditional use permit because it expired. It was never actually in action because they didn't comply with all the conditions. So that's the basis of where we're at today. The new owner of the park is trying to maximize the use of the vacant spaces with this application, and is requesting the commission concurrence that it would be an appropriate interim use. And with that, Jing Yu will give you an overview of the staff report and the plan.
All right, thanks. This is an application by Ramon Mobile Home Park to seasonally place 35 RVs on unoccupied mobile home spaces. Just to give you the background on the park, it's located on 18.65 acres at the southeast corner of Calle Amigos and Ramon Road, west of Sunrise and north of Sunny Dunes Road. The park was established in the 1930s as a trailer park. Over time it evolved into a more permanent mobile home park. During its operation, previous owners have rented spaces to RVs on the basis of availability without the conditional use permit. The new owner bought the park in June 2001, and in May 2002 he applied to the city for a conditional use permit to place RVs seasonally in those mobile home spaces. Since purchasing the property, he's placed 5 new mobile homes in the spaces with the intent of either selling or renting them. He's made some improvements to the park since then, including paving the internal streets. He plans to have the park the RVs there really for no more than 5 years, sort of just as a source of income as he continues to upgrade the park. As the park has sort of just grown really organically over the years, some of the property development standards in our zoning code were not strictly adhered to. So in the staff report, it's sort of divided up into property standards for the whole park and property standards within the park itself. So I'll sort of just take you through what really the major issues were in that sense. Firstly, with the property development standards for the park as a whole, the park itself doesn't meet density and side yard setback requirements, but because it was established in about the 1930s and 40s, it's a legal non-conforming use, so staff felt that it should be exempt from certainly those requirements. The major issue in this case really was regarding the perimeter wall and landscaping and the access issues on Calle Amigos. Firstly, the perimeter wall on Ramon Road. The mobile home park standard calls for at least a 6-foot wall and landscaping. In this case, staff feels that the Ramon frontage is the most important because it is a major thoroughfare. Much of the oleanders that were previously planted there are now thinning out, showing some exposure of the park to the street. So that is a staff recommendation that a 6-foot wall be required on the Ramon frontage. In terms of the Calle Amigos access issues, the engineering department is requiring full street improvements on Calle Amigos, really to address dust control issues, and also to provide a 10-foot wide driveway openings at existing points of access with the provision that if the owner chooses, he may close some of those 12 points of access on Calle Amigos and be waived from that requirement of providing 10-foot wide driveways. Moving on to property standards within the park, really there's 6 major issues in that that particular part of the staff report. In terms of the size of the spaces, we went with the RV standards in this case, which is 1,250 square feet. The proposed spaces, as we counted, there are about 9 that were substandard, but assuming an RV is about 9 feet wide, staff felt that with the width of the proposed spaces, it would be okay to ensure really the minimum separation distance of 6 feet as required by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. When staff had contacted HCD, they had indicated that the standards of 1961 should apply. So 6-foot, building separation would work in this case, or there'd be potential to have that building separation. Secondly, staff recommends that the occupancy not exceed 180 days as allowed per code. Thirdly, the paved pads on staff's field visit. We saw, as you can see in some of the pictures, there are concrete pads. Some of the spaces have concrete pads and gravel, or a pad and some dirt. Staff is recommending that if the RVs are permitted in the spaces, that they all be paved with concrete, again for dust control. In terms of utilities, the owner has indicated that utilities are available for each individual space in terms of sewer, water, and electric, and this was verified during staff's field visit. An RV enclosure is really part of the mobile home park standard. There is RV enclosure on site. One is actually on the Ramon frontage, and the other one is an unenclosed dirt area also on the Ramon frontage. Staff does recommend that the RV storage area be enclosed. One of the provisions is that, of course, it not be used for any living purposes. But as it is right now, the enclosed RV storage area has a 6-foot high chain link fence with some landscaping that's really starting to thin out. But that is a requirement that probably could be implemented over a period of time, since it doesn't directly really relate to this application. In terms of access and parking, the existing streets are approximately 20 to 25 feet wide, I believe. And the parking, there's really adequate visitor parking. Owner has indicated the existing visitor parking spaces aren't really well used. So again, those requirements, staff didn't really feel that was necessary. The owner met with us during development committee, and during that time he did express some concern regarding some of the conditions. He disagreed with planning conditions number 3 and 7 regarding time limits on this conditional use permit and regarding the landscaping. As I mentioned before, he does endeavor to have those RVs there for about 5 years. Staff has recommended a 2-year limit, and that was really pulled forward from the previously approved CUP in February of 1998. Regarding the landscaping, and we felt it was pretty much a greater financial burden, and he didn't really feel it needed to be done immediately. So again, that's something that the commission can certainly recommend an alternative phasing timeframe if you choose to do so. The applicant objected to all engineering conditions. He felt that the street improvements were too great a financial burden to do at this time. So again, that's something that the commission can also consider. Staff also received public comment in the field and over the phone from residents that expressed opposition and support for the project. Some of those concerns are outlined in the report. We also did receive a petition signed by 131 residents of the park supporting the applicant's efforts. We also had a last-minute opposition letter that was delivered to us yesterday, and I believe those have been handed out to you. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, staff's available, and the applicant is also available for your questions.
Mr. Schoenberger.
I didn't see, I'm not finding in the conditions of approval the requirement for concrete pads. Is that in the conditions of approval? You mentioned that.
That's number 8.
Okay, there I see it now. And also, and I may have missed this one too, that the RV storage area be screened.
That was something that was not included as a condition of approval. It was sort of a staff suggestion over time because it didn't relate directly to the CUP, so therefore it wasn't included formally in the conditions for this application.
So it's not included in the conditions?
No.
Okay.
No, this is about the RV enclosure. Yeah.
Jane, in that same vein, you talked about a 6-foot separation, and I didn't see that in there either. Is that generally described, or how is that handled?
That wasn't put in there because we had felt that looking at the width of the spaces, the proposed spaces, potentially there is enough for a 6-foot separation between RVs and mobile homes when that does happen. We can certainly add it as a condition of approval. Yeah.
You're just saying that the existing format already complies with that,
That's
is what you're saying?
correct, yes.
Okay. Any additional questions of staff before we open the public hearing? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to speak to the commission on this issue, please come forward at this time. Please give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Randall Guy. My wife and I purchased Ramon Mobile Home Park in June of last year. We purchased this property as an improvement project, or fixer-upper, something that I've had some previous experience with. We inherited the current, somewhat tired appearance that the park presents from the street. We are doing everything we can to improve it. However, given the fact that improving a mobile home park always takes considerable time and money, it is critical that the City of Palm Springs and ourselves are able to develop a cooperative relationship in implementing park upgrades, particularly those that require the city's approval. From the time Ramon Mobile Home Park was established in the 1930s, full-time and seasonal residents have lived side by side. It's part of the park's character. It's one of the reasons why Ramon Mobile Home Park is an interesting and eclectic community. We are seeking the city's formal approval for the temporary placement of recreational vehicles during the winter seasons in the currently vacant spaces at the park. This would go far to help us afford to further fill the park with permanent mobile homes and also to continue to make other quality of life improvements. To date, we have placed 6 newer mobile homes on previously vacant lots since the time of purchase, a process that helps the park aesthetically. Very few things negatively affect a mobile home park quite as much as vacant spaces. These newer mobile homes are in spaces we will never, in the future, ask the city to approve the placement of RVs on. We have also remodeled the office and clubhouse, re-roofed the building, made major road repairs, landscaped many of the vacant lots, and upgraded the laundry room and provided new washers and dryers in those facilities. We have spent approximately $150,000 on park improvements since June of 2001. The Planning Department has approved the placement of RVs in Ramon Mobile Home Park, subject to certain conditions. Some we have agreed to, but others will make this conditional use permit an unworkable document. I'd like to review the conditions now. Conditions 1 and 2 are standard boilerplate, and of course we have no objection to them. Condition 3, giving the conditional use permit just a 2-year period before expiration is not reasonable. Given the fact that we have implemented improvements to the park on a proactive basis, I believe that a 5-year phase-in period with periodic interaction with the Planning Department staff to ensure that the conditions are being complied with is much more reasonable. I would rather spend my time making improvements to Ramon Park than assemble conditional use permit application after conditional use permit application. Condition 4 is fine. Regarding condition 5, I intend to build a 6-foot-high decorative masonry perimeter wall along Ramon Road. I'm also sure that we can come up with a landscape plan that the city will be pleased with. However, I'm being asked to implement this condition prior to the placement of RVs in the park. In my opinion, this is unfair. This was not a condition of the earlier conditional use permit that the previous park ownership obtained in 1998. I believe that this condition is the result of negative experiences the planning department had with the previous owners. The fact that they did not follow through on their end of the bargain has led the planning department to not want to trust me. In order to implement the agreed upon conditions, including the construction of the privacy wall along Ramon Road, I will need the revenues from the RVs. I strongly believe that my track record has demonstrated a good faith approach to park improvements. The city has nothing to lose and much to gain by giving me the benefit of the doubt and allow me to use the revenue from the RVs to help pay for the agreed upon improvements. I have no problem with condition 6. Condition 7, landscaping to the Ramon side of the park will be done in conjunction with the construction of the privacy wall. However, some of the existing tamarisk and oleander trees along the rest of the park's perimeter do in fact provide some screening for the park. I would like to cooperate with the city in the implementation of a landscape plan that does not necessarily call for the wholesale removal of the current trees. Condition 8, all of the vacant spaces that we propose to place RVs on have concrete pads. Building Department Condition 1, all utilities and hookups for RVs will comply with the California Electrical Code. Engineering Department Conditions, I have no problem with conditions 1 and 2. Conditions 3 through 6, improvements along Cali Amigos. The engineering department has been entirely unwilling to discuss these conditions with me. They decided that these road improvement conditions were going to the Planning Commission regardless of the consequences to this CUP. These conditions were never a part of the previous conditional use permit. I was told from the beginning of this application process that the previous conditional use permit was to guide this current CUP. Approximately 6 months ago, I, along with our neighbors along Cali Amigos, received notification that the city was planning on improving the road and was looking for public input. Nothing happened after that. I was told last week by one of the city engineers at the Development Committee meeting that this road improvement to Cali Amigos was ultimately not budgeted by the City Council. However, he followed that up by telling me that the engineering department was going to make this same road improvement request a condition of my CUP, regardless of its cost or what it does to my budget. I have no objection to conditions 7 through 9. With regard to our residents' feelings towards this conditional use permit, we have received 133 letters supporting the temporary placement of RVs in Ramon Mobile Home Park. As far as I know, only a few residents have been opposed. I think you'll agree that it's impossible to please everyone, but we've come as close as can reasonably be expected. By granting this conditional use permit without the unreasonable conditions attached, the city will benefit by satisfied residents in a well-located, affordable, and attractive community. The surrounding neighborhood will be bettered with the construction of a privacy wall and improved landscaping, thus dramatically upgrading the park's drive-by appeal. Ramon Mobile Home Park is a unique property with a long and interesting history and deserves to be well taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guy.
Yes.
I said thank you.
Oh, thank you.
If there are any additional speakers, please come forward at this time.
Good afternoon. I live at the Ramon Park. I've lived there for 8 years.
Ma'am, sorry about the speaking problem with our microphones. Just speak as loud as you can, and if you'd give us your name, please, I'd appreciate it.
Sheila Glazer. Can you hear me now? All right now. I've lived at the Ramon Park for 8 years. Before I moved there, I used to go around there on my bicycle and count the spaces, the same amount then as there is now. Those 131 signatures are from people that don't have to live near the RVs. I have no objection to the RVs, none at all, but it would be nice if they were all together in a certain spot. Because I'm 71, I want a little privacy and quietness. I don't want roller skates and all that passing my place. That's the thing. And what else can I say? I've forgotten. Just got all nervous.
Take your time.
Oh, now, some areas, the far end of Dillon Road, have mobile parks that really the tenants there don't realise that we've got all these spaces. And what would be advantageous would be for some of those people to bring their mobiles into our park. We've got all these empty spaces, they'd be all year round. It would be a better community than 4 months. That's it.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hi, my name is Eileen Connor. I'm a resident at the Ramon Mobile Park, and I've been there for 10 years, 11 years. And I, too, agree that an owner has the right to make as much money as he can on his property. But having the RVs, and like I said, that's okay, but this wall business is questionable because years back, the residents of Mobile Home Park, because of neglect of the owners, had to pay for the paved streets, which were not our streets. And now this wall becomes part of the property, and I'm concerned that that expense may dwindle down to us as a hardship, 5 years from now, because he's laying all this money out in upgrading the park, which is also wonderful. But if you have 35 spaces, you're going to have a minimum of 2 people in each RV. So we got 70 extra people using the facilities at the park. And our pool and our jacuzzi area is as old as the park, so it's starting to wear down. And I feel that those areas have to be a priority also on the agenda, and that will cost money. And so will the wall. And the wall is very expensive. And I think if you looked in the Palm Springs police recording, you'll see that we've never really had a major problem of thieving or any. We get stray people once in a while that walk the park and use it as a shortcut, but we also have a lot of elderly people there that are used to the formation of the park right now, and to change it could be, really a hazard for them, and myself included. And so I'm just questioning that in the evaluation of this decision, that as one of the resident has said, that you set a fund aside that he earns from these RVs to be for the wall, so that doesn't dwindle down to us later on. Because to me personally, I don't feel that wall is necessary. Maybe the one on Ramon to cover the RV storage area, because the oleanders are getting thinner, would be a good idea. But to cover the whole park, I don't see that. And again, I'm stressing pool area, and that's a major, major comfort in that park is our pool and our jacuzzi, and it does need extra service there, and all this is going to cost money. I know that, and so I'm just would like you to take that into consideration, and maybe there could be a way that he would have to set some funds aside for that wall expense so that it doesn't come down to us later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Connor.
Marjorie Caphammer. I moved to Ramon 2.5 years ago, and I love it there because it's a funky place. In my block of 8 mobiles, when I moved there, 3 of them were RVs. I am an ex-RV owner. The people are lovely people. The people across the street from me, the second day they're there, are out buying flowers. And so, shows you what they do. Our swimming pool holds 100 people, so I don't think that the people coming in an RV is any problem, and it would be the same amount of people if they were in a trailer. Mr. Guy is doing everything possible to bring trailers in on those places, but it's pretty hard to do because the spots are very, very small. My lot is only 40 feet deep, so trailers of today won't go on a 40, trailers of today are pretty good size. We've got, most of the empty spots are small places. People do not come and go. That's not the deal. We're not talking overnight. We're not talking in a month leave. A lot of the people have been coming here for, I don't know how many years. Years and years and years. The same people in their RV. They are part of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, ma'am. I think you already spoke at public comments. We kind of have a policy. If you speak once, you...
I just want to sign in. I forgot to sign
Oh,
in. so
great. Thank you.
If that's all right.
Sure.
Take over there.
Is there anybody else that wishes to address us on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to commissioners. Ms. Conrad.
Questions of staff or of the applicant, I suppose. What was the etiology of the block wall? Was that suggested by the applicant or was that a staff suggestion? And it was primarily about screening or noise or security, or what was the reason for it being block rather than some other material?
In our review of this several years ago, we took a look at the park, we took a look at the neighborhood. The noise levels on Ramon Road are sufficiently high that if the park were to be built today, you'd have to put a noise barrier wall in, and it'd probably be taller than 6 foot. We did a technical review. We also looked at the aesthetics of the park as well as one of the storage areas, and we felt that because it's a storage area adjacent to Ramon Road, it would be appropriate to screen it, and that would be an appropriate thing to request in response to a proposal to use spaces for a different use on an interim basis. Subsequent to that, obviously, the neighborhood is changing. We're going to get a new shopping center across the street. We're going to have a bit more traffic, a bit more interest in our neighborhood. Upgrade would be augmented by trying to get a landscape and wall program along the road.
And I wholeheartedly agree. What I guess I'm wondering, and maybe you can think about it for a second, is on the Ramon facade, maybe that would be appropriate, but would a landscaping and some less expensive material for the remainder of the park be a reasonable compromise? Oh.
If the commission is comfortable with that, we can certainly work on that. The 6-foot-high wall requirement is along Ramon Road, and then I think we recommend that the balance of the property we work on the landscape in the recommendations we check the chamber.
Okay. And then I guess I have a question for the applicant actually too. Do you have any long-term plan for combining some of the sub-sized lots in order to increase your saleability?
Yes, some of the lots are in fact too small for some of the larger, newer models, and we'll be doing that. Quite a few of the remaining lots we can in fact put newer ones on. We just have to keep our eye out for some of the smaller ones. And it takes time. We have put 6 in out of 35 or around 40 vacant spaces. We've put 6 in little more than a year. Our intent is to continue that process, but I just can't be saddled with conditions that, like the engineering department is asking for along Cali Amigos, that essentially kill the entire conditional use permit. It would make it so unreasonably expensive that I can't follow through on it.
But I guess what I'm asking is not the ones that can currently accommodate a more modern mobile home. I'm asking about the ones that are too small ever to accommodate one.
Absolutely.
Do you have a plan that you've submitted to combine those so that you can make a usable lot?
what I'm trying to do right now is fill up those spaces that will accommodate the larger, newer models right now. And then we'll go to the smaller spaces that we need to combine in the near future.
Would you object to putting that plan together sooner than later and presenting it to the planning department?
Well, sure, I'd certainly like to do it, but I'm not sure that having it a condition of this conditional use permit is, I don't know if that's a direction we want to go with. I know that there's going to be a lot of interaction over the next few years, hopefully longer rather than sooner. 5-year phasing period for the improvements to the park are much more desirable than a 2-year, back here in 2 years kind of thing.
And I'm just suggesting that if there were a plan in place saying that these lots were going to be combined, these lots will eventually have mobile homes, that maybe the 5 years would be more comfortable to the city.
What would the city gain by knowing which ones are going to be combined and which ones?
Well, I suppose it would, then you wouldn't be back here in 2 years, or it would give the city an idea of where you're going, how many are going to be eliminated, and give the city an idea of the sunset of having RVs in the park.
5 years at the very most. I mean, we've filled up about 20% of the park so far. I think a 5-year approach is reasonable. Income from the RVs is going to allow me to continue to, do the improvements such as the wall and the landscaping, and also to afford to buy more units. Our ultimate intent, Jing brought this up in her introductory speech, but our intent is not to rent out these newer mobile homes. We will if we need to, but they're for sale. We sell them, people rent the spaces, as all the rest of the residents do. So ultimately, we are putting these newer mobile homes into the park to sell them to residents. So a lot of times, though, I mean, sometimes it happens, people come to the park, they like the park, they decide they want to buy there. Some of them come by way of RVs, some of them come by way of renting a unit, so we have to accommodate everybody.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Schoenberger.
Can we hear from engineering on the Calle Amigo improvements that seem to be creating the problem, or a problem, one of the problems?
Yes, of course. I believe that you have in your packet 3 colored pictures that show the Calle Amigos frontage from Sunnyways up to Ramon. And this is the area that we're particularly concerned about. As you can see, it's pavement to dirt to the property line. There are vehicles that have been parked there a number of days or more. There's some debris in the right-of-way. It's dirt. There is some greenery there, but with vehicles passing over it, it very quickly dies, and we again end up with sand. The valley is being monitored quite heavily by AQMD. The city engineer and the senior civil engineer have asked me to pass on to you at this meeting the fact that we need to mitigate any types of situations where we can relative to creating more dust in the atmosphere. This is why we are being very definitive about having the street improvements, the half-street improvements put in at this time. The wall on Ramon is an important thing, but we feel that the dust mitigation for PM10 and QMD is also extremely important and needs to be taken into consideration. You all know that we have these federal regulations, what the effects are on various types of federal funding to the valley cities, etc. And this is what we're looking at. When the project came in a few years ago, around 1998, I think it was, we did not have these restrictive regulations on us. So the engineering department did not look quite as closely at the proposed CUP, nor did we make specific recommendations. Over the last number of years, things have changed, and so in order to keep up with the more restrictive requirements, federal regulations, we have had to impose regulations on the CUP at this time.
I have a follow-up on that same area. Let's just picking up with the PM10 issue. Is there a way to mitigate the dust short of requiring full paving and curbs, such as some type of gravel or some other application there that would maybe less costly?
Yes, there is. Basically, a recommendation would be to put in 2-inch AC pavement over compacted native, and or install appropriate landscaping. We would prefer not to see any type of gravel in the public right-of-way. It does a lot of damage to windshields when it gets caught in tires and it gets kicked up. So gravel is not the way to go, but some type of a hard surfacing or some type of a landscaping ground cover is an alternative.
And I can't tell from the pictures, where would the curb and gutter go that you're requesting? Is all of the picture shows what appears to be exposed dirt area, and some of them have cars parked there. Is that area to be eliminated, access to that eliminated by the curb, or is the curb closer to the landscaping in the picture?
The curb would be closer to the landscaping. The street section that you see is a narrow street section along Cali Amigos at this time. So when curb and gutter is put in and the additional pavement, you would see the curb and gutter much closer to the property line or the existing land.
So the dirt that we see, that's really in the public right-of-way?
That's correct.
And is this a private street or public street?
Cali Amigos is a public street.
Why is it that the city doesn't pave that area of the public street?
Quite honestly, it's because of lack of funding. Cali Amigos is a residential street as opposed to a major secondary or collector street. We have a certain amount of money per year, and we use that to maintain the streets as best we can. Going in and putting in full half-street improvements along the residential streets is something that can, the monies just haven't been there. Also, it has been the policy of the city to require the developers of properties to do whatever half-street or portions of half-street improvements need to be done at such times as they are improving their properties either from a vacant state to a developed state or from a developed state to a further developed state, if you will. This is like the conditional use permit. At these points, we can come in and request that the property owner then upgrade the street improvements along the property frontage. And this is a long-standing policy that the city has had in order to get full half-street improvements in throughout the city.
And just so I understand how that policy works, when you go from an undeveloped state to a developed state, you require whatever improvements are appropriate, and from that point on, the city maintains those improvements?
That is correct. For instance, if you have a vacant lot which has been developed, let's say it becomes a commercial lot, the developer puts in the half-street improvements, which are then, at the point of completion of construction, accepted by the city, and the city then maintains those half-street improvements
So-
on the property frontage along with the rest of the street.
And so if I understand the situation here, because this was improved back in the 30s, that there were minimal requirements at that time, and so that the city's maintenance hasn't really done much it really hasn't done anything concerning that dirt there, that there's been nothing all these years. Is that?
That would be a fair statement, yes. At the time that the pavement was put in, it was probably somewhere in the 30s or thereabouts. At that time, the requirement was basically AC pavement over compacted native. very minimal requirements for pavement structural section. They basically provided access to the properties, along the streets.
You said AC pavement over compact. Isn't that what one of the alternative that you recommended here?
Yes, that is the alternative, and it's the alternative because it would again be a temporary measure. The approved requirement would be the AC pavement over aggregate base over 24 inches of compacted native dirt, so it's a much stronger structural section.
I guess, not to interrupt you, but I guess what I'm saying, or what I'm having difficulty with, if back then that was what was required, AC over compacted, the city has allowed that to deteriorate. Why hasn't the city maintained it at that level? In other words, the minimal level that was required of the developer at that time.
The city has tried to maintain it at that level. This is one of the streets, I believe, that periodically gets a slurry or some type of a treatment to try to maintain the existing pavement. It's much more difficult to maintain pavement where you have a raw edge of pavement against dirt because it continues to ravel, to break apart as vehicles drive across it onto the dirt area, as you can see these vehicles have. So you start to lose bits of, a little bit more of the street section over the years.
If you look at the dirt sections in the pictures that you've supplied to us, based on your experience, can you give us your estimate of the last time that those dirt sections ever received any kind of slurry or cover or application of any kind?
The dirt sections would not receive any type of slurry. It would only be the pavement section that would receive the slurry to try to maintain the integrity of the pavement that's there. It is not beneficial to put a petroleum byproduct or product on dirt, nor is it allowed anymore.
Well, but wasn't that dirt section at one time, as you say it, AC over compacted, or no?
I do not believe it was, no. I believe that the pavement that you see was put down and that's where it's been. I do not believe that the pavement at any time went from the existing edge of pavement to the property line along these streets.
Thanks for the explanation. Sorry to drag it out, but I just wanted to understand.
No, that's helpful. I'd like one more engineering question.
Sure, go ahead.
Because this kind of gives, and this is when you're dealing with these things that were started in the 30s, the rules have changed even since 1998. But how do you view it from a PM10 standpoint? How do you view this differently from, say, we're now looking at an area that might be hillside, where we're not encouraging curb and gutter, and why wouldn't the same argument that you would have to put in curb and gutter because of PM10 be in these areas where we're trying to encourage narrow roadways and open runoff?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you have a good example of a condition of approval on the house you approved earlier. Hillside area, Mesa Track, we've got a rough edge of pavement that changes from property to property. Engineering initially recommended that they pave from edge of pavement to the property line so that that parkway area where people may or may not park would be paved and we wouldn't have a dust problem. We have a community design problem of changing the character of that neighborhood. The alternative that is in your condition of approval is that the applicant could propose a landscape or other improvement program that would take care of the dust problem, i.e. either prohibiting cars from parking, could be done with a landscape development plan, and some barriers, that could be boulders or something like that. It could be aesthetically pleasing, or it could be all landscape. If you take a look at some of our neighborhoods, Mesa, Las Palmas, Movie Colony, some of the property owners have chosen to landscape or improve all the way out to that rough edge of pavement. To maybe move this one along, I think that the chairman's line of questioning about this city-owned land, it's dedicated, it was improved back in the 30s, whose responsibility is it? Clearly, I think we feel that there are RV park residents and visitors that park there. We do require property owners to maintain parkways all the way out to basically the gutter. If your private trees lift the gutter and the sidewalk, we go after the property owner to fix that. We do not fix that at city taxpayer expenses. If the asphalt surface needs repaving, that's a city obligation. But the actual parkway, and one of the conditions of approval we put on new projects is that property owners maintain the parkway. So there's no debate about it in the future. What you could do is, substitute the engineering condition with one that in a period of time, the property owner provide a PM10 mitigation program that could include landscaping, barriers, things of that nature. I think to solve the PM10 problem, particularly on older properties, we'll probably have to be creative as opposed to just curb and gutters. The applicant does have the ability, and so does the city, to maybe file an application for some type of block grant funding or PM10 funding to try and improve this with full curbs and gutters and the like. It's probably not going to be a competitive project because it's a local street, and when you get into block grants, as the commission well knows, it's very, very competitive with different organizations as to what those capital monies might go to. So you could substitute the condition, achieve the same objective with the PM10 management program without having to put in the curb and gutter and all the standard improvements.
I do have a recommended condition of approval that we are using now because of the PM10 situation, and it is coming up in, for instance, the Mesa Track project that Doug just mentioned. Basically, it's saying to construct 2 inches of asphalt over compacted native or install appropriate landscaping and ground cover to provide adequate dust control measures needing the approval of the planning director and the city engineer from edge of pavement to property line along the entire frontage, excluding approved driveway locations. So that might work for this situation.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Schomburg.
Just a couple of comments. I would be in favor of that kind of condition here. I think something does need to be done. Maybe not full curb, gutter, and the rest of it, but that area there needs to be taken care of, I think, aesthetically as well as for dust control. And in fairness to the other people in that neighborhood, and particularly the people across the street, that problem does need to be addressed. And I don't know, would there be any opportunity to address that problem other than now? If we don't require it now, will there, in the foreseeable future, be an opportunity to address it again? And that would be, I mean, if we were going to have another opportunity possibly to impose this condition, give the developer a little more time or the applicant a little more time, that might be helpful to him. But if we miss this opportunity, do we lose the opportunity?
I don't foresee an opportunity in the near term or maybe the midterm future to impose this condition on the property owner. Unless the property owner came in and asked for another entitlement.
Right.
An extension of this particular use permit if you were to not require that condition, or if they wanted to make substantial renovations and modifications and changes that would require city approval. If they're just doing routine maintenance and placement of coaches, that's all pretty much inspected by the state, and we're not directly involved in it. And I don't think this developer has any intention, he's not talked to us about any change of land use in the future. So I think we're really in a position where you probably need to deal with this issue. If you're comfortable with the substitute language, I would just encourage you to question whether or not you want to pave it all the way back to the property line. I think we could probably create, you normally wouldn't have pavement all the way back to the property line. You have a sidewalk and parkway area. So My suggestion would be to encourage the applicant to come up with
A plan.
landscape development program. That's going to be an expensive condition of approval. The commission might want to give the applicant a time frame to do that, and the applicant in theory could seek some grant funding through block grants, although I mentioned it's a pretty competitive process, and capital funds are usually hard fought for repairs of buildings and new equipment and things of that nature as opposed to street improvements.
Let me suggest perhaps a different approach here. In thinking about this, obviously, I think there has to be a wall on Ramon. I drove by there today. I've driven by there many times. It's unsightly. There's a boat sitting out there now, other RVs that are, and equipment you can see from the street. And to me, that we just have to get that cleaned up. I mean, that's just not an acceptable condition. And we do need some landscaping as part of that project to improve the appearance of the park. I think this would be beneficial not just for the city as a whole, but for the park itself. It would dress it up a little bit. I think it would be good for everybody. I think it would be money well spent by the applicant. And the perimeter landscaping, because of the problem with oleanders dying, and which is, everywhere. There's a problem on other sides of the park that need to be addressed with a landscape program. There are other materials that can be used to screen. Japanese oleanders do well. A ficus hedge or something. I don't know. There are other possibilities to try to screen the park, but the park should be screened, and I don't think that at this point we can impose a requirement to build a wall all the way around the park, which would be the requirement, as I understand it, if they were to build that park now. But the landscaping, the perimeter landscaping on the south side and the west side needs improvement as well. And what I have in mind doing, because I think these issues need to be addressed, at the same time, I would like to encourage this applicant to spend this money, if it's possible, because of the stake that the people in the park have in the park. We've got some people that have been there a long time. It does provide some affordable housing, which the city's very short on. The park is kind of an institution in Palm Springs, but it needs some of these things, I think, in order to continue as a part of the community. It just needs to be cleaned up in these ways. And my thought perhaps is to extend this conditional use permit for a year, so that, or some period of time, a shorter period of time, to give the applicant an opportunity to further address these issues and come up with a plan that he thinks he can live with, that meets the concerns that we're expressing here. And I think the concerns are obvious. It seems to me they'd be obvious to you, the applicant, as well as they are to us. These are all things that the park needs badly. And so that would be an alternative, to come up with a plan, a landscape plan, or an asphalt over native plan to solve the problem on Calle Amigos, to come up with a plan for a wall and some landscaping on Ramon, and some substitute screening landscaping on the other sides of the park, and to allow you at least to continue to have some revenue from the RV while you're trying to come up with something that might work here for you and for the city. So that's another approach to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach, John. In terms of phasing, your existing, or your proposed number 7 having to do with the landscaping, talks about phasing out the older landscaping and phasing in the new. Is it possible to apply that same approach to the installation of the 6-foot wall that's in number 5, rather than requiring that it be built at the inception prior to the time that he starts putting RVs in the park, but break it up, a certain portion within a year, a certain portion within 3 years, and or something like that? Do you have a suggestion on that vein, Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you could, take a look at the conditions. The commission can always impose time, place, and manner requirements on a condition of approval. Commissioner Schoenberger's suggestion of a 1-year approval, let the applicant get in the business of renting the spaces and then come back with a detailed plan. I would emphasize a detailed plan for dealing with the improvements at the end of 1 year. Might be a way. The other one would be for the commission to just impose timeframes. You could require that the applicant submit a detailed wall and landscape plan for the Ramon Road frontage in X amount of time, 60, 90, 120 days. You get a plan, and that with that plan, the applicant can give you a phasing program with the idea that at the end of X years, that the entire wall of Ramon Road be done. It could be done in phases where you could come back in and take a look and just ask them to work particularly on the storage area. Try to get that screened first, and so you could break that one up. Relative to number 7, I think the one issue that condition doesn't really address is when does everything need to be finished. Basically says work with it, upgrade it, phase it out, give us a plan prior to the rental of RV spaces, but it doesn't say when. That should all be completed. So the commission's pleasure is for staff to work with the applicant to come up with a more detailed phasing schedule. You can either impose that upon the applicant today, ask us to bring it back at another meeting or your next meeting, or you could defer for a year and ask the applicant to study it and actually bring plans and diagrams back on how you might implement all this.
Well, I agree with the applicant's position that 2 years is not reasonable for this CUP if they're going to be asked to do these improvements to the extent that they are. But I'm concerned that if we just say, great, it's for 5 years without really setting forth some detail, it's not going to happen and we won't have any teeth, and we get to 5 years or 4.5 years and see nothing there, and he's gotten his time and the city really hasn't gained the benefit of these conditions that we seek to impose. I'd like to see some kind of phasing, and whether it's to say that the improvements need to be in by 2 years, or whether that's unrealistic, 1 year and to get half of it done and 3 years to complete. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the expertise to really set that phasing in. Are you suggesting that we? I mean, I'd like to leave some of that to the applicant and the staff to work out, but I do want some kind of sunset here. What would you suggest at this point?
Well, if the commission would like us to work up a more detailed phasing plan, we probably need some time with the applicant and report back to you at your next meeting as to what that might be. If the commission wanted to impose broader requirements so that you could act upon the permit today, you could go along the lines of Commissioner Schoenberger saying we're going to grant this permit for X amount of time, and in that time frame, we expect a public hearing within 1 year where we look at a detailed phasing program for all of these improvements.
The reason...
The challenge of doing that, we deferred something into the future, and the question is, will we be back here on time in a year? Obviously, we'd have to put a sunset in that if we did not bring this back to the Planning Commission, the permit's null and void at the end of 1 year.
Just a quick comment on that, and we might need to be careful how we phrase that. But I don't feel comfortable myself sitting here trying to set the timing for this phasing. I don't know what the applicant can and can't do. I don't know what really makes sense. I think it's something that the applicant needs some time to study and budget for. I'd like to give him a reasonable opportunity to accomplish these things that I think it's pretty clear what we think needs done. So maybe the applicant can help us. You've heard some suggestions here. Do you think you could come back with a plan, understanding that what we're really after here is to get the PM10 problem and the street cleaned up on Calle Amigos somehow, and you could work with engineering on alternatives and costs? We're looking to get a perimeter wall on Ramon, a block wall, and some landscaping, and we're looking for a plan to clean up and improve the perimeter landscaping. This is landscaping now on the south side and the west side, and I don't think for myself that needs to all be done at once. But I would like to see that you can do this by maybe 6 months, you can do this in a year, you can do this in a year and a half, so that we could impose then some deadlines on getting some of these things done that you feel you can live with.
Absolutely. If I could suggest, well, when is the next Planning Commission meeting? Is it monthly?
Well, we can set it off to whatever date you want. The next meeting would be what, next week, wouldn't it?
September 11th and September 25th.
The problem that we're running into from the park standpoint is that the RV people, the snowbirds, will start arriving here within the next
60 days.
6 weeks or so. And I'd like to start moving on that as quickly as possible. As far as your question as to what I'd be willing to commit to at this point, I would suggest that by all means, within a year's period, I could commit to having the Ramon wall in. That's something I very much want to do. Perhaps the following year we could look at, I could commit to the addressing the Calle Amigos. But if I'm perfectly willing to do this in a staged sort of process, especially given the fact that it didn't work out the last time with the previous ownership. But the wall, I would absolutely be willing to commit to constructing the wall along Ramon Road within a year's period. Probably be done sooner than that.
Do you think you could do the wall in 6 months?
I'd give it a shot. I mean, there are lots of factors involved there that are a bit out of my control.
Can I just ask, does staff have a priority list? Would you rather have the wall or perimeter landscaping or the Calle Amigos landscaping? Is there...
Which department would you like?
Yeah. You, Doug.
You know, I think we're on a target here, and I think what, it's really an interesting situation. This is a great old park that's been around a long time, and we had some pretty terrific plans from the previous owner, and maybe they were so terrific they sold it to you. But here we have a gentleman who's willing, trying, able.
Hold him hostage.
I don't know what 5 years from now that looks like, or 10 years from now that looks like, but your input would be helpful, because this park will evolve. I mean, I've been in this park a lot, and there's some wonderful people there. It is affordable. It's a great location because of its proximity to the Mizell Center, to the library, to now the grocery stores, and it's for the folks that live there. It's a terrific place. There are also some real bad old, I mean 1940s trailers with sheds built outside them that people lived in or were living in. So it needs some work, and as you do that over time, as it changes hands, I'm interested in seeing that. So I'm inclined to, do the 5-year thing and do some kind of planning, but have you bring back at probably the September 11th meeting, having worked it out with the staff, sort of timelines. And I'm not so concerned about having it done in 6 months versus a year versus have it be successful, but have these things that you can continue to have, because we've got what appears to be an able developer here willing to do something with the property and taking care of, like, the storage thing first and whatever. I'm just really torn on this one, because it is really a great old property. On the other hand, you were crazy enough to buy it, but there's a lot of very, very nice people, as you probably know, living there and have for a long time, and we need to have it evolve, I think, in some kind of 5-year plan with the staff. I think would be really terrific. So I'm inclined to table it unless someone else has.
Yeah, Mr. Guy,
Why
are
you
you
do
receptive
that?
to that idea of coming back at the next meeting with a little bit more detail? That would be the first meeting in September.
Basically, commitments to timeframes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer not to. I'm coming down from Seattle last couple of weeks now, but I'm willing to do it if it's necessary.
Well, the alternatives, we're going to
the
set
thing
some
that-
arbitrary dates. and-
My concern is whether the applicant would have time within even a 2 or 3 week period to do the things that I think need to be done, which include getting together with engineering and working out a plan to solve the Calle Amigos problem. And what I would like to see back here is a definitive plan on how you plan to solve that problem, and how long and when in the sequencing, when you think you can get that done.
I've made attempts to work with the engineering department, and it hasn't been successful. This has been put onto the agenda with no.
There's the department. She sounded to me like she's willing to work with you. She's got some ideas that were given to you
I'm
today.
afraid that we could just go to September 11 and we're at loggerheads again. The engineering department is unwilling to budge, and then where do we go from there?
Mr. Evans, can you offer some assistance here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I could make a suggestion how to maybe move this item forward today, if it's the commission's pleasure. The commission required that the wall be installed within 1 year of the date of the approval. The commission required that an improvement program for Calle Amigos be submitted to the Planning Commission for its review and approval within 1 year. That's a plan, not an improvement. And that improvement be installed in a time frame and schedule approved by the Planning Commission at that meeting a year from now. That the conditional use permit be for 5 years, and that the staff annually monitor the park for progress relative to compliance with the conditions of approval. I would suggest that item number 7, regarding the perimeter landscaping, that the perimeter landscaping plan also be submitted within 1 year. You know what they're going to be doing, and that be completed at the end of the 3rd year, so they can make that a 3-year project.
The only thing we haven't covered would be the Ramon Road landscaping. I think that should be part of the wall and done in a year.
My intent was that condition, number 4, all be completed within the 1st year.
Engineering, you wanted to make a comment?
And then the engineering condition be modified relative to Calle Amigos to substitute the alternative language. And that comes, that engineering suggested, and has to do with paving or creating an edge of pavement landscaping. And I think there might be a good opportunity for a little bit of both. Create some nice parking areas as well as creating some landscape and make that street frontage look better. And by requiring the plan within a year and then the improvement at the end of the second year, I'm getting all my dates right, it will give the applicant an opportunity to apply for block grants to help improve the neighborhood as a low and moderate income project. They would qualify for block grants and they might be able to be competitively funded. We did this for another community facility up in the northwest portion of town, and they were able to secure the block grant funding, but it took them a couple of cycles to get it all done. I think that addresses most of the issues. Gives the applicant the ability to go into business for this coming season, and then bring basically the park up to speed on Ramon Road within a year, and then report back to the commission on the rest of it. Required performance on his part, and a pretty good concession on the part of the city to try to work on a long-term basis.
Did you want to make a subsequent comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I would like to propose that the debris along Calle Amigos be cleaned up and that it be kept in a clean state, and that the applicant work with engineering to develop some type of a restricted program as far as vehicles parking on the dirt area until such time as that is landscaped / paved or whatever is worked out at the beginning of the second year.
In other words, you're talking about an interim program until that time.
I'm talking about something interim, yes. We'd like to see that cleaned up. We'd like to make sure that we don't end up with vehicles parking there or being left there for long periods of time. We'd like to try to be able to control, the PM10 situation during this one-year period in which they're going to be working on an improvement plan to submit at the end of the first year. So I'd like to see some interim mitigation measures done at this point during this first year.
Mr. Chairman, the city in theory could post it on parking, we own the property. The issue is, if we do an interim program, we're either going to come up with a post and cable type situation that prohibits people from parking, that's going to displace parking into the residential neighborhood, or we're going to come up with a boulder program. And the options are fairly limited to prohibit parking from the standpoint of looking at the big picture of PM10. If we're looking at, we've got to correct the PM10 problem progressively over time and demonstrate compliance over a period of time. And I'm not sure that the Ramon Park and the adjoining parking is going to register as far as significant improvement. Our problem in the Coachella Valley is predominantly construction dust and unpaved places where people drive on a regular basis, not where they might pull over and park.
In your proposal,
If we'd like an interim program, we could do it, but it's going to have some effect on the neighborhood because it's going to displace the property.
We can certainly see that planning and engineering are not seeing eye to eye on all these things here. But,
well, cleaning up seems like a reasonable
Yeah.
requirement. But in your proposal, Doug, don't you say that the Calle Amigos has to be implemented by 3 years? Didn't you say that? The landscaping has to be implemented by 3 years? No, the plan by a year and implemented by 3 years, the preliminary, that's what...
Actually,
I think he
2 years.
Well,
the roadway issue and that parkway would have to be resolved at the end of the second year.
So that's
3
not...
years is for the actual on-site perimeter landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners, anybody like to make a motion? Or?
Mark does.
Well, I think I could make the motion that we approve this application for 5 years, subject to the conditions that the Ramon wall, block wall landscaping be completed in 1 year, that a plan be submitted to correct the Calye Amigo problem, PM10 problem, either through landscaping or asphalt on the native soil or some other measures acceptable to the engineering department, that plan be submitted within 1 year, to be completed within 2 years, that within 1 year, a landscape plan be submitted with respect to the landscaping on the interior of the project, on the east side and the south side, and that there be interim mitigation measures on Calye Amigo to include cleaning up the debris and taking care that there are not abandoned vehicles parked along there. And Doug, I don't think you're suggesting that we post it no parking at this point? That we not do that yet?
I was not suggesting that, but it is something to see if you want, someone wants. I don't see the issue of allowing some of this parking to continue for a fairly short period of time while we correct a range of issues that be significant, including air quality in the basin.
Engineering can be very happy with that. That'll be
Right.
Wow, I second.
Any further comment? Motion by Mr. Schoenberger, second by Ms. Conrad. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Conrad.
Aye.
Mr. Matthews.
Aye.
Mr. France.
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Platt.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Yeah, I think that'd be appropriate. I just wanted to thank the applicant and thanks all departments of the city for helping us reach a resolution.
Thank you.
Got to do it.
back in session. Next item is number 8, the sign program application by Jesse Cross of Best Signs for sign program at 216 through 226 North Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call your attention to the item in your packet. The sign criteria prepared by Best Signs was included as part of your mission packet this week. The item was reviewed by Design Review on Monday, and the Design Review Committee was adamant in their insistence that there not be uniformity in the material, size, color, or font of the sign program. So that would eliminate parameters B2, B3, and B4. If I may, I'd like to call your attention to the elevations of the building and kind of walk you through their reasoning.
Please do.
Originally, there had been a sign program design that would have a uniformity of size as well as color and location. Font was not included as part of the uniformity. Design Review was of the opinion that they would like to have a more creative sign program and really eliminate the uniformity throughout the program. In terms of the building itself, there's an opportunity in the program for a main sign, which would be in these locations, as well as additional window signage. The Design Review Committee was also comfortable with blade signs to provide better direction for pedestrians. So with those eliminations of B2, 3, and 4, Design Review Committee has recommended approval of this sign program.
Any questions of staff? Alex, I have a question. The sign criteria, the second paragraph before A talks about each tenant having a space on a front freestanding monument, one on Palm Canyon, one on North Indian Canyon, and I didn't see a monument sign on the drawing, or I didn't understand where that's to be located.
That is in reference to the hotel, which is also part of this program. There currently is a monument sign at the hotel.
Is that, this is not the first time that the sign program has come before us, or the hotel came before us a couple months ago. Did we address the sign for the hotel at that time?
I'm sorry, there is no monument sign on Palm Canyon Drive. On Indian, there would be a monument for the hotel, but that is not proposed at this time.
So this paragraph is incorrect or should be stricken?
Yeah, stricken should be North Palm Canyon Drive from the...
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a suggestion that you refer that item to staff, because I'm not aware of a monument on North Palm Canyon Drive, and I'm not sure you really want a tenant identification on Indian Canyon Drive where there's no access to the rental spaces.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Now,
We don't typically allow that type of indication.
If this is basically a tenant identification sign for the complex that's on the building somewhere that I'm not aware of, we'll work with that at staff level. But if they're actually proposing a monument, because I'm not aware of any, we'll bring that back to the Planning Commission. I haven't seen a proposed monument on any of the plans, and I don't think it's on this. If you could just delete that reference, and if we need to bring it back, we will.
Okay. You have comments? Motion?
I guess I have one question. So are all these individual signs going to go back through design review?
Yeah,
Staff
my understanding is staff approval.
Okay. You're the motions guy.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the sign program with revisions eliminating the specifications B2, B3, and B4, And what else did you want? There was one in
The second paragraph.
the second paragraph. Will be reviewed by the staff.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Grinch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item, number 9, case 3.2226, application by Ian Danielski for single-family residence at 3130 Barona Road. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I have to abstain on that matter.
Thank you, Mr. Schoenberger.
Mr. Chairman, Jing Yu will give you an overview of the plans, and at the conclusion of her report, I would like to make a few remarks if I can, Mr. Chairman.
This is an application by Ian Danielski for a new single-family residence at 3130 Barona Road. This particular property is located, actually, I should probably plot a map and clarify. Really, this case, it's in the specific plan area. If you follow along Bogart Trail past where the wash is, it's basically just immediately past the bridge on the north side of the street. So it's a very short part of Barona Road, actually. The plan that he's presented here is a house that has been to Development Committee review several times. It did go to design review. Staff certainly had concerns about the buildings that were built over the wash. As you can see, this is the drainage channel wall, and they have, a guest house, a pool, water feature, and an office area there. In discussions in design review this week on Monday, we discovered that actually the slopes here are far too steep to build on per the zoning ordinance, which states that any slope greater than 30% shall be kept as open land. So that really negates the hillside proposal as shown here. And design review recommended with a 4-0 vote that nothing be built essentially past that drainage channel wall. Instead, sort of as compensation, I guess, for losing that part of the hillside property, they recommended perhaps moving the guest house and the office and add it to the main residence as a second story. Apparently there was precedence for this previously at a house on Avenida Sevilla. That was one recommendation that came out of design review. Secondly, looking at the plant palette, there was discussion about the landscaping the hillside perhaps. They didn't seem to have a problem with it as long as it was desert native landscaping. And in terms of the water feature, there were suggestions that the water feature be moved in front of the wall instead and maybe built sort of like a fake mountain waterfall feature at the back instead of having it cross over the drainage channel. I know the applicant, the architect are all here with a model of their plans. They can probably give you much greater detail in terms of the project, and also staff's available for your questions. Design review responded well to the house. They liked the materials. Originally, when the applicant had brought in the material board here, staff had recommended that the concrete tile be perhaps replaced with something of a higher quality. Applicant subsequently brought in a new sort of newer concrete tile and also this slate. Design review didn't really like that sort of slate roof. They preferred to see more of like an earth tone tile. So really they really like that original tile instead, even though it's concrete, not really that slate. So.
Slate's kind of earth tone.
Thank you, Jing. Doug, you wanted to make a comment as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has gone to great extent to try and utilize the entire property and the hillside portion. And one of the things that when I was made aware of this and in one of our early development committee meetings, when this subdivision was originally designed, it was very controversial, particularly at the city council level. One of the issues that was debated and discussed was whether or not the lot line should follow the channel or run up the hillside. The original subdivider wanted the ability to sell larger lots where people could say, I own that hillside behind my property. But clearly it was the intent of the approval that flood control or drainage feature be the extent of development, and that this not be a piece of property where people crept up the hillside with development. We took a look at the record, the Planning Commission minutes and the council minutes, the conditions of approval that specifically was not addressed, but I participated in most of the staff meetings on conflict resolution with the original subdivider, participated in putting staff reports together, and while I can't find the specific reference to it, I can tell you the intent was to not go up the hillside. If you do approve that, where you cross over that drainage barrier, we'll have a succeeding concern from adjoining property owners about who's higher, whose privacy is protected and not protected. It was really the intent of this subdivision that they be flatland houses, they be single story, and that they fit on the properties and not go up onto the hillside. In addition to the issue of encroaching into that hillside area, there are portions of the proposed house that will, as proposed initially, and I still believe as redesigned, will be a significant visual effect of a prominent knoll that's on and adjacent to this property. It's a trailhead for hiking trails, and if that building were built, you'd have a significant outcry from people that hike in the area that we didn't manage our hillsides and open space very well. The issue of steepness of slope, the 30% rule, I didn't calculate the actual slope of the property. I was more concerned about what was the intent of the original approval. Now down to the east, to the south of this, there was a two-story house approved. It was right up against the hillside. It did not, in the two-story area, have any neighbors, and it kind of fit back in kind of in a corner of the subdivision. And that was looked at very carefully as to how it might affect adjoining properties. At this particular location, you could probably design on the kind of the north and east boundary of the site, but not all the way to the south. You could probably put a two-story structure on the property and not affect the privacy of adjoining properties or views substantially. But if you go up that hillside, you'll create a race that I can assure you we will have a very hard time managing, and I think the end result is it will be substantially different than what was originally approved, and that is pretty much flatland single-family homes on this subdivision. Mr. Chairman, that completes our report.
Thank you, Doug. What we have before us, though, is this application that shows the building across the channel. We don't have any interim or anything that was done in response to architectural review yet.
No, the design review meeting was Monday. The applicant hasn't had a chance to respond. The applicant did do some revisions to try and lower the guest house the furthest to the left on the site drawing, but I can tell you it still causes concerns at staff level, and if it were to be built, you would hear from lots of people about it.
Any questions of staff before I invite the applicant to come forward? Mr.
Yeah.
Matthews?
Help me cite this again. I think I got it. I go down South Palm Canyon Drive, and just before Bogart Trail on the right-hand side, is that wash we're talking about?
No, actually, you go down South Palm Canyon, turn on Bogart, go over the bridge, and then as you go over the bridge, there's a little roadway that just goes into the hillside and stops, and it would be the one
Gotcha.
lot right off that little roadway.
Gotcha.
Right up against the trailhead for almost all of the
Yeah.
Santa Rosa trails.
Gotcha.
That you would,
And what little, the wash I'm familiar one was the one they just did all the work on and the horses are in, and the little wash they're building over, I can't picture that.
It's not really a wash. What it is basically a little concrete channel that was put in to take care of the nuisance water that comes off the hillside.
At the back of the lot.
At the back of the
Gotcha.
lot. And then there's a wall. You don't actually see the channel. You see the wall. And the wall was installed primarily to
Yeah.
keep rockfall from occurring and hide that little channel.
I know where it is now. Thank you.
Okay, I understand the applicant is here and that you'd like to address us. I invite you to come forward at this time. Give us your name and
I'm Ian Danielski. I'm the one with the house, attempting. We've been dealing with this for some time, and architectural review really kind of, my situation was when I bought the property, I was under the impression it was a full acre. I'm paying taxes on the full acre, including the mountainside. I was never really told. I came up to planning at the very beginning with the model and the plans, and I was told, first of all, it's 41% slope need, which I didn't find out until Monday, that it's 30. So I guess that pretty much threw us out of the park. The problem that I have right now is trying to salvage what I do have. I've put close to $100,000 into this so far with plans and taxes, etc. I'm trying to salvage whatever I can out of it to still maintain a quality home. I understand the situation with the mountainside. I'm willing to be flexible, but I'd like to have a little flexibility, such as the 2 stories, and maybe changing this into maybe a rock, boulder style flow running down into a pool area that we would put down the bottom. Instead of having such a large patio, we put the pool down there. Jim's a contractor. You can probably give a little more answers.
Hi, my name is Jim Seneker, and I was enlisted to help him develop and build this project beginning last week. So, kind of came in late in terms of what has gone on so far, but we basically resigned ourselves to the fact that we can't get the 2 additional buildings in the pool area beyond the wall. And we're okay with that as long as we can put it somewhere. So our thought is, in keeping with what Doug said about keeping it to the north and the east to prevent encroachment onto other properties, there's a property to the south directly on this property line. Across the street there's another lot. So anything looking out over this, maybe infringe on the other property owner. We're aware of that. So our thought was to keep everything back towards the hill. This area right in here, which is on the north and east side of the building, is where we thought that we could put the 2-story element to the project. And obviously, this no longer is here in our minds. Our feeling at the meeting on Monday with the architectural review, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sort of soft-spoken anyway. In any event, at the Architectural Control Committee meeting, we felt there was an undercurrent that perhaps if we did it in a good way, that we could have some water coming off the hillside. There were some adamant voices that suggested otherwise. However, I walked the trail this morning and went up on the top of this and looked down on this particular lot. I also followed the trail all the way around. You have to go back quite a ways. It starts going back towards the north and east. And then if you circle back around, there's 2 houses to the south of this project that you can overlook. And you look back in the pool area and all, and there's nothing that really prevents you from looking in their backyard. It's going to be the same here. But if you did the element right in terms of the water feature, if you brought in the natural rock, boulders, that type of thing, from what I gathered in viewing it from the trail, there's no way that you could really see where the water's coming from. It's going to be a really nice visual element for the property owner and the owner of this home, though, to incorporate, some natural type landscaping and some, water coming down into kind of a waterfall effect into, the pool or spa or anything in their backyard. I can see where you don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, and you don't want to set a precedent where everybody's starting to creep up the hill. But we're not talking about putting building improvements. We're just talking about a natural-looking flow. If you go to the west over by the oasis, I mean, there's water flowing everywhere on the west portion of the canyon. People pay good money to walk back up in there and take a look, actually. So that's one element that we would like to incorporate into the plan. Not anything where it looks, man-made type thing as this appears, and maybe throwing you off. But we're talking more of a natural look. We would like to do some, landscape treatment along here. Nothing ornate. Keep it in a natural type landscape. They did mention also, I don't know if you mentioned that earlier, I couldn't hear you, but they also said that we could do some low profile lighting. We're not talking about spotlights, up on trees or anything like that, but certainly if we had the water feature, it would be a nice element to that. That's pretty much.
Thank you, Mr. Snedeker.
Thank you.
Commissioners, comments, questions? Mr. Matthews.
I'm not sure what you want from us here. We kind of, I want that building approved, but we forget everything the other side of the wash, but maybe some water thing. I mean, what do we do here?
What?
What I was trying to do is, I don't want to spend a lot more money
Yeah.
on something, and I wanted to get some kind of approval so that we spend more money on the plans, et cetera. We have some sort of an agreement on bringing those buildings down staying below 30 feet, to give it 2 stories on each end, and changing the pool just to a water effect. If architectural was in agreement with all of that, they want to know the type of plants we want to put on the hillside. They want to know the type of light that we would use, the lighting that would go up there, etc. Before I get into all of that again, I want to make sure there's some sort of an agreement that I'm not going to have a problem or a major problem.
Well, and I'm just expressing an opinion. I mean, they're beautiful buildings. It looks like great architecture. It looks like everybody's sort of on board, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have problems in the future in what's going on. But I think the concepts you're talking about are not only legal, they're allowed. Is that correct, Doug? Or do you see, and what do you suggest we do here? I mean, I'm kind of, because we've got a plan that has changed dramatically because of the hillside ordinance. Yeah, sorry, and sorry about that.
Well, I don't think the issue of going up the hillside, has changed dramatically from an early development committee in Monday. I mean, we've been telling the applicant, I don't think he really registered until I basically said, no way,
Yeah.
you just
Not
not
gonna
going to
happen.
make it. I mean, I had to kind of amp up, what I thought the community concerns would be, and at that point it registered, probably closer to a month ago. I think what the applicant is asking you to do is if you would be receptive to a 2-story design. I could tell you that I will not sign a administrative minor modification for a 30-foot building on this lot. If it's 2-story, we're looking at standard plate heights. We're probably, in the 20-foot mark to the mass of the structure. I'd be very reluctant to go to 30 feet. I mean, this is a flatland lot, that just happens to have a portion of it that runs up the hillside. That would qualify it, under the hillside ordinance. But it's pushing, if you get above 2-story.
Excuse me.
The applicant, was asking if the commission would be receptive to that, and if you are, I think the appropriate motion would be to restudy the proposed application, direct the applicant to resubmit plans that may include a 2-story unit. We'll work with the applicant on appropriate location of 2-story or a 2nd-story component. It still has to go back through design review, and we do have policies that prohibit lighting the hillside, so we would not encourage the commission to try to entertain that as an option. We have a policy to not light up hillsides from backyards.
There is, and help me out because I don't work with it every day, but if you are the lot up against the mountain You can go to a second story, but is it limited to 20-some feet, or?
Well, the ordinance says you can propose up to 30 feet. It doesn't say that it would be approved. It's
Okay.
not an entitlement. In this particular case, it's a flat land developed pad that happens to have a little drainage feature and a wall, and then some property that goes up the hillside that was not intended to be built. In this particular location, because of the kind of the corner condition on the back side, if they appropriately place the two-story and they don't get it too tall, I don't think they'll appreciably hurt any adjoining properties. But boy, if you encourage them to go to 30 feet, you're probably going to get a 30-foot structure, and I'm going to then tell you that you'd have to approve a variance, because I could not approve a minor modification at that height.
I got it. I heard you.
What about the issue coming across the wash with the water feature?
I think you're going to, start the precedent of, how much is enough across the wash. The intent was that it's a firm, fixed line. It would be very objective. We wouldn't have to argue. And, the intent was to keep the hillside in its natural condition and not modify it.
I don't know, I don't think that we should probably be rendering you opinions, but it seems to me that that I would go very gingerly about any proposal, that the hillside's inviolate, and you're going to have a lot of problems trying to go there, so I would make my design, sensible, so that you won't run into another problem. And maybe less ambitious because of that, and it's just the nature of the game.
So our purpose then, Doug, is giving some direction to the applicant by our comments, and then to neither approve or deny, just saying that it's not really ripe for our consideration, and refer it back for
Yeah,
restudy?
the motion I would suggest is that the applicant restudy the site plan and building locations and bring plans back.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we restudy case 3.2226.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Ms. Conrad. Any further comment? Before we vote on it, I just echo the comments, as you bring this back, we are receptive to a proposal for two-story, but keep in mind the director's comments and, try to come back with something accordingly, or you may run into a wall.
Well, I guess the next best thing is to sit down with your registrar and find out where you would like to place the drawings on views.
Right, I mean, yeah, we can do that. If you'd like to stay a few minutes, we could do that at the end of the day. Yeah, we're almost done with the meeting. We could pick it up.
Anything further? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously with one abstention. Next item on the agenda, our Commissioner Work Program. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chairman, we're going to probably at your next study session start talking about the design review ordinance. I'm crafting an outline proposal for the Planning Commission, and we'll start that workshop, and that process will also engage the Planning Development Committee that the council has put together at the recommendation of the city manager to take a look at planning, engineering, and building issues. And one of the issues that group would also like to take a look at is the design review program. And we'll give you an update on an outline at your next meeting. That completes the program or commission work program at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. City Council actions, update.
There were no planning items on the council agenda last week. This evening, the council is going to talk about airport security and screening for dangerous things that people try to put on airplanes. Continuing dialogue, as the Commission's well aware of what we have to do at the airport. The council is also going to discuss the ballot initiatives that are scheduled for the November election, and discuss those and give the city manager probably some direction on what staff is to do insofar as information relative to those ballot measures. And that completes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Commission staff reports requests. Commissioners? Yes, Mr. Schoenberger.
Doug, there were a couple of references today in one of the staff reports and otherwise to a development committee. And what is the development committee?
The Development Committee, often referred to internally as DevCom, is basically our in-house review committee. It's engineering, building, fire department, planning as necessary. We'll bring in economic development, redevelopment, police or parks and recreation. It's the internal group that puts together the recommendations that come before you. So it's our staff working committee for development projects, and applicants meet with development committee over issues. We try to work out issues the best we can at the table before we bring them into the hearing room for the commission's review. So that's the development committee. And we meet every Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning, and right now our agenda is about 8 or 9 pages long, and we cover a lot of ground in a morning meeting.
Mr. Grinch?
The issue we had with the conflicts with most of us with Section 14, any feedback from the city attorney on that, where we are?
I have not received an update, although I did take a couple of days off, and my in basket is about 2 feet high. I doubt if the legal opinion is there yet, but I know the city attorney really, did talk to me about the cooperation he got from the commission members, and he was very appreciative of your discussions with him.
Thank you.
Anything further from commissioners? Staff, any comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have got a very busy study session for next Wednesday. We took August off. We've got a number of items. One of the items that probably commands its own study session is we do need to start talking to the commission about the Palm Hills Specific Plan project located south of East Palm Canyon Drive in the hillside area. It's the Palm Hills planning area. We'd like to start with a discussion of policy issues to make that project work as it's designed. The Planning Commission and Council will have to consider a number of general plan policy amendments, and we'd like to start talking to the Commission about that. We're suggesting that possibly we look at a special study session, possibly September 18th, or at least that week, where we might have, one item on the agenda. We're not going to ask you for a lot of direction. What I anticipate is this project will take 2 study sessions, a field trip, and then we're going to give you a stack of documents, environmental documents and specific plan documents about yay high, maybe a little taller, that will go through a very rigorous review process. We anticipate a lot of community input on the project, but we need to start with the policy issues and the site, and then work it up. And on large projects, we've generally done that with 2 or 3 dedicated study sessions. It just doesn't work to put a project like this on with 5 or 6 or 8 other items. Commission have any concerns scheduling with a special meeting for that purpose?
I will be here for the study session next week, but I'm going to have to leave by about 4 o'clock. I've got another meeting after that I've got to go to, so I don't know how that's going to affect quorum. I heard Jerry say, or no.
Yeah, I'm out of town on the one for the 4th, but the 18th is fine.
And I think I'm okay that week.
Yeah, I think I'm okay that week. If we want to go ahead and schedule it, I would suggest that we get a fax or a mailer out to all the commissioners, knowing that 2 of them are gone, just letting them know, and also maybe alerting them to the fact that we may have a attendance problem with 2 other commissioners, and encourage them to be here, or let you know if there's going to be some absences.
And that's for the 4th.
That's for the 4th and the 18th. If you're sending out one mailer, you can address both issues.
Okay.
I think on the 18th, I'm going to have to, I know I have to be in San Diego by 5, so probably I won't even be able to make it.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about the week of the 18th, not we hadn't picked a day yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, normally we meet traditionally on Wednesdays, but it'd be the commission's pleasure.
Okay.
Knowing the city's meeting schedules, I'd have to either meet Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty well booked up.
Jerry, if we met earlier, could you come on the 18th?
I probably could come earlier, but once I leave, I've got other commitments to the government, so I'll be gone for the rest of the
What about scheduling a 12 o'clock meeting on the 18th or something?
We
like
could
that?
try to do it in maybe a 2-hour time frame starting at noon.
That'd work for me.
That work for the
Yeah.
commissioners?
That's fine. As long as Alex brings the sandwiches.
Well, Alex is pretty good at that, put mayo and bologna together.
Press turkey.
Why don't we tentatively say that and, get a notice out to the other people and look for a response? Maybe invite a response to say, yes, I can do it definitely after we all look at our calendars and so we'll know.
This project's going to be important that we try to
Yeah.
get the full commission at each meeting because we're going to cover a lot of ground quickly and, it's a fairly complicated project relative to the general plan policies.
Very good. Anything further? Not, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.